Okay, so setup-wise, as I said, pleased with how the changes have been made from the first session. Just be aware of that sort of setup. It's very easy when you start focusing on something new now that the old setup creeps back in. You have about 3 or 4 shots where you did go back to a little more the hands back in the middle, a bit of a weaker grip, and that's obviously going to encourage that left to right shot. So this left hand one was your old takeaway. The hand you see miles away from the leg there, pushing it away because the hands are going to hit the club whips on the inside. Club gets a bit flat and laid off. At this point, at the top of the backswing, that club's very, very laid off. Left arm's very, very high. That there looks to me like someone's just going to go woof and chop into the ground. And therefore, you're going to come from quite steep on the outside. We can see kind of at this position, just as that club's coming in the golf ball, the club is on the outside. So your start direction will be left. Depending on what your hands or the club face do in relation to the ball, you either pull it with a draw, you cut it back to target, or you could start getting those unmentionables out to the right there. So we've got to make sure we get that club working back on a better path. So if we look at the comparison of that takeaway there, okay, and this was an exaggeration, and you even said in the video that this feels really exaggerated. Is it really exaggerated? I said, yeah, it feels exaggerated. Look at that. That is a massive difference, yeah? I mean, this is what you've got to try to do. As I say, you could see your eyes following it. So generally what we would say is if your eyes follow it, you can kind of position it quite well. I would be, I wouldn't say surprised, but if you were following with your eyes and you were getting back to this position, I'd be like, well, hang on a second, you're watching, you can control yourself. So you've got to try and do it more with feel. But again, clubber, you can see it over that toe line, club thumb on that left thigh. I mean, look how much higher your hands are there. I mean, the club's been lifted up there. It's still
and the hips have turned a bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you get much more hip. This is obviously in practice, okay? So you can sort of just look at that little white pocket or something on your leg there.
Yeah.
You watch as you take it back again on the takeaway now. See that moving, yeah?
Yes.
Whereas you watch that white thing here now, not really moving at all. Yeah, it's only moving because the top half's moving, the bottom has to move. You're not actually engaging that, okay?
Yeah.
So moving that club away. Now, in terms of when you hit the golf ball, we would expect a slight difference from the practice to real. In all fairness, you're not that far off where you wanted to be. The club whipped a bit inside because you're used to your forearms doing that. So that pushing down with a pad with that left hand is going to
keep the club face out there
longer. The club out and just keeps the club in front of your hands. Yeah. Once that club gets too far behind you, you've got to make a reaction to it. Okay, but the club now gets steeper here, which is great. Top of the backswing now just looks a little bit more online, doesn't it? I mean, you think where you were before up here. I mean, it was laid off. I mean, the club's aiming over here. The left arm's really high. Yes. If your club's aiming over there, your path now is going to be parallel to that. If your club is here, your path now is going to be parallel to that. Yeah. So that's kind of what we're trying to produce, is a bit more kind of straighter lines to target. Yeah. And from that position there, it's going to encourage an awful lot of over the top. And if you're not careful, I say produce the Tom Hanks, Sherman Tanks, unmeant, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Can't mention the S word, can we? No, please don't say it. Yeah. Okay. So the club then comes back in the golf ball now. Look at the shaft. It's more on the inside of the golf ball. Your shoulders are more square at the target. Ball now can start just left of time. That ball's at the screen there. I mean, what? Inch left of that white line on the impact there. Yeah. And then through to a target position there. So in a good finish position, which you have anyway in fairness. But it's working that hand path away better to change that impact.
It's that first quarter.
Yeah, which makes most of the difference in the swing, yeah? Because once the first bit goes wrong, everything else after that is a reaction to what the first bit's done wrong. And every reaction, unfortunately, doesn't tend to lend itself to sort of good ball striking or consistent ball striking.
If I'm really strict on my setup every single time,
got to be, yeah.
Get it right, grip it, that's that.
That's it, yeah.
And then we concentrate on the first
100%,
quarter.
yeah, exactly. To get that first takeaway part of the club. And the thing is, you could do that. I say, if you were disciplined enough, and I will say this now as nicely as possible, you could say, if you do that for 5 minutes every day, it'd be great. You wouldn't do it. We just days go by and you think, oh, I forgot to do it, okay? But if you sort of set out a challenge, say, right, I'm going to do this as many times per day or many times a week as I can do, for 2 or 3 minutes, just stood there with a goal club going, just do that to the point where you can't not do it. It'll just become so ingrained. That is what you will do. Yeah. So when the club then goes back, then your body can read and react to where that club is, as opposed to reacting, oh my God, where's the club gone? Yeah. And then making some other adjustments on the way down. So, make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good man. Very good.